Welcome to NFL Daily, where neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor ash falling from the sky is going to stop us from getting our picks in. Yes, we are back. I'm in my somewhat smoky garage, I admit. Got to get back inside. And Cynthia Frelund is down the coast a little bit. How are you doing this week, Cynthia?
I am in better shape than you. We're a little further. It seemed like further south was better. So we're good here. We're just, the puppies and I are hanging out, making sure that they stay. I'm like really psycho about making sure that we've got so many air purifiers going that the huskies seem to be okay.
Yeah, we're fine. That's the thing. We're close and we're right there. But it's also so crazy to be like driving home. The couple times I've driven home this week, especially on Wednesday on the 405, to be on the 405 and as you're coming to the 10 and you look straight and it's blue skies if you just don't look. And if you look 2 degrees to the left, you see the Palisades fire and it's raging. And you look 2 degrees to the right, it's like 2 p.m., and you can see the Eaton fire. and to see both of that and then to drive into it, and obviously we can kind of see it essentially like it looks like it's at the end of our streets, but really it's a couple miles away or a mile away, and there's a canyon between it. And we just are feeling for everyone out there. Of course, we mentioned on the preview show with Patrick Claybon that the NFL is encouraging people to donate to redcross.org/NFL. So just mentioning that again. And I mentioned personally, Meals on Wheels West does a lot of great work with the elderly and people near the poverty line that can use food. And I know for a fact that they were delivering literally yesterday to their clients, and everyone in the Palisades was accounted for, which is really great on their end. And I know you just came back from a Costco run where you're picking up, because you are that kind of person, supplies for people that
Listen,
need it.
I have not been to Costco in Southern California and in a long time, and it was a wild experience, but I'm also like a big pet fan, so I wanted to make sure to be able to donate. There's a lot of a lot of pets that are displaced as well. So in addition to human stuff, which everyone needs more around here, there was also a lot of pets that you can help out as well. And that was, before we got started here, obviously pulled Clyde on because you hadn't met Clyde yet. So obviously you need to meet him.
Yes, your beautiful dog. And we've got Nori in the backyard. We made a little tent over her so that like the smoke, air, and the ash that's falling doesn't fall on her. Yeah. And you might be saying why are you doing a podcast? Look, we've got the whole rest of the day. I've got the next 48 hours. All I've been doing is doom scrolling and watching the news and getting our family ready for what we need to. But it's fine. It's okay to work. It's a good distraction a little bit for a few hours, as are our picks, except for last week. Not a good distraction. And by the way, before I get further in the show, we are going to try to do a Saturday night recap show live with Bill Barnwell on YouTube. So I want people to go to the YouTube channel while I'm here. Like and subscribe it there, and you can support us there and Cynthia's YouTube channel as well, Numbers Game, and just check her out as well. So all that out of the way, getting into our picks. We did not have a good week 18. Let's just ignore it. We literally didn't win a game. Week 18 got us with all the sitting starters, and we thought we were cute. And you pushed one of your games, which didn't, which at least was a normal game.
That's
so
funny.
Technically you didn't go 0-3.
That's just
you went
funny.
0-2.
That's just comedy. That's pure comedy right there.
But we're still over 500 for the year. We're going to bounce well over, and we're going to bounce back. If you check out the Game Day Views picks, which we keep track of, I'm 20 over against the spread all year. So I'm annoyed I'm not higher in this format, but we're still above 500. We're going to bounce back. You give me your first pick. This is the show where we make 3 picks a week.
Okay, so I'm going to start down in, I guess it's Sunday night, and down in Tampa. I think that the Bucs, it's a 3-point line is what I'm seeing right now, and I think that the Bucs cover that. There's a lot, these lines are really interesting this week. I don't look at anything and I'm like, I feel so confident, but I think that one is the one where I feel like the experience of Todd Bowles in this situation, the added pieces to the defense, Antoine Winfield Jr., that's a huge upgrade in their secondary. That's a huge, massive deal. I think that one, Tampa by at least 3 points. That one, I wish it was 2.5, but whatever. But, it is what it is.
I'm joining you. I had a feeling both of us were on the Bucks last week. Obviously, we lost that, and that was a division matchup. Didn't expect that. They were lucky to get out of there with a win, much less winning by 8 in the end, the way the Saints defense played them. But I think these playoff numbers, they're hard in terms of nothing sticks out because you have less to choose from. And the numbers at the end of the season, they're tighter. And I was glad to see this one because to me, this was the only obvious one for me as well. This was my number one pick. I'm with you that I think they're a little undervalued because to me, these two teams are, if you look at all the numbers, are quite even, and that's why it's 3 over the course of the season. But ultimately, their best to me is so much better, I think, than the Commanders' best. They're a high variance team, I'll admit it, but even their average game and the Commanders' average game, that's close. But their best, I think, could win by a couple scores here. Even if you just look at the players, their defense is a little better. They do have better players overall in their secondary and up front. Jalen McMillan, I'll take him over any wide receiver two from Washington. I really like their offensive line. If you compare them to the offensive line of Washington, their tight end, K. Dot, and I'd take him over Zach Ertz. It's all these like little advantages. It's not a huge thing. Jaden Daniels is tough to deal with, and the Bucs defense is nothing special. But like I said, this is the one I really like. I think they get back to the divisional round. It'd be the 4th time in the 5th year for your boy Baker Mayfield and Jason Light. I don't know if Jason Light's your boy, but they're pretty good there in Tampa.
I, I think Todd Bowles is my favorite of all of those people in Tampa. I just think he is salt of the earth. Plus, they have a guy from Okemos on their staff. Duh, tight end coach is from Okemos, so you always love a good hometown hero.
You are a Todd Bowles guy,
Yeah.
and it's good they won that game last week. I literally was thinking at halftime, man, if they lose this game, who knows what could happen there. But now, if you get back to the divisional round, like I said, 4th time in 5th years, that would be outrageous. It's crazy. They actually have more wins than any team, Cynthia, in the NFC over the last 5 years. Pretty good. Are you going NFC or AFC with your next pick?
I'm gonna go this one. Like, the points make me like it a lot more. I was a little surprised. I was shocked by my model. I should say I should sell it harder, but I actually have Houston winning in that first game this weekend. I have Houston at home upsetting the Chargers. The Chargers are 3-point road favorites. And while we've seen some disturbing things from this Texans offense, defense at particular times, I think there's a few things that really bolster this for me. Number one, the injury report for the Chargers includes both of their starting running backs. I think that J.K. Dobbins plays, but they did sign Ezekiel Elliott to the practice squad, which at least adds a little bit of fanfare to the idea that they're not completely healthy. I also saw Rashawn Slater. He practiced in full as of the last time the practice report came out, but practicing in full does not make you 100% healthy. And Rashawn Slater has been excellent this season, but without him, that could be a much more difficult value proposition. We know that this Texans front brings pressure at the second highest rate. We know that their back end of their defense, they have backed it up with Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter. I just think in this matchup, in a 1-game sample size, if they can get that run game going like we saw from the Texans in week 18, which I know it wasn't really for anything, I still think that is an advantage over the Chargers, at least if you're giving me 3 points too. I have them winning, on their own, but I think that especially if you're giving me 3 points, it's just as silly not to take that number.
Well, we're going against each other here. I'm going to be boring and be Johnny Public. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the heaviest bet games, and we're not allowed to bet, so we're just making
not
bets.
us.
But I have a feeling this will be one of the heaviest action games. It's the first of the weekend, and I just think the public is going to be on the Chargers because it seems too obvious. And generally, the public loses in those cases. Now, I have noticed with this particular weekend, I am in on a lot of favorites this weekend. And it actually has been a favorites type of season and a public type of season. So I don't know if that continues at all. That doesn't mean anything, and obviously on a pick-to-pick basis, but that's what this season has been like. And I just look at the way the Chargers are playing now. I look at the Texans are 26th in total offensive efficiency for the season, 26th. And they're playing a defense it's not as good as the Texans defense. Like Mac and Bosa have been a little quiet lately, but what they've done well all season is beat bad offenses and kind of make you beat them, go the long way down the field and just hold points down. I think they're 9th in overall efficiency on defense. And part of that is their schedule, but this is an easy matchup for them, I think, ultimately. And then you just look at the way my guy Herbo is playing with so much confidence. I've talked a lot about this game already on the show because we had Seth Payne on who does radio in Houston. So we talked about this game for like 25 minutes. I don't want to keep repeating myself. Ultimately, I lean Chargers in a week where I don't have a lot of favorite picks. This was my third favorite pick, but since you made it and I'm going against you, I'll go second with it. Give me your third pick, unless you have anything else you want to jump in on there.
No, I mean, look, gut-wise, I was surprised that the model went with Houston. Then I looked into a little bit more and some specifics and I was like, I guess 1 point. Whoop.
They have great players, great team. Like they're an average team and you're an underdog at home. I can see why. You don't even have to win the game. You just have to keep it within 3.
All right. I want to say that I want to take Philadelphia with the points to cover. But my problem is that as of right now, if Jordan Love doesn't play or is not okay, then that number is going to go in the wrong direction.
I think we could make our picks assuming both starting quarterbacks are playing.
Okay.
If you want. It's up to you. We could both put backup picks, not to give away my third pick is too. We could have a backup as our fourth anyways, because I don't love it that much more, but this is also the game I'm going to pick.
Oh, great. I think, well, let's see. I'll just go purely on numbers. I mean, I guess look, I'm going to tell you the numbers say right now, I technically like the Rams plus 1.5, tiny,
okay.
Point, by tiny percentage points.
Well, that's not much. Do you want to just go with the Eagles as your pick? If that's the one you feel good about, let's go for it.
Yeah. I mean, my problem with the Rams pick is if any displacement happens, I don't want to get into that with Arizona and all that stuff. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to cover 4.5 points, not 8.5 or whatever. If something weird happens, that would be, I wouldn't like that. But I think 4.5 points is a manageable number for a team that has this defense, because for me, Josh Jacobs is the key that makes this offense work for the Packers. And where does Josh Jacobs do his damage? He has the most yards after contact, and the most touchdowns between the tackles. Where does Jalen Carter live? Where does Jordan Davis live? In the middle. So getting the outside run going, and that's Zach Bond territory, no thank you. I just think it's going to be very hard for the Packers to sustain that level of efficiency and keep Jordan Love. He's now been great against the blitz. Why? Because he's been in manageable downs and distances. He's not heaving it for no reason. This is a team that's so pot committed to rushing in the first half of games. They've done it the most in the NFL. It's something like 49%. There's been 8 games or so where they've run for more than 50% in the first half. Doesn't matter if it's situationally the right thing to do. They're doing it anyways because their rush rate over expected is something like plus 15%. It's massive numbers. So you mess with Josh Jacobs' ability to be efficient. It forecasts for a hard game for the Pack.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that much on the preview show, so I'm really glad you did, because I think Zach Bond. The reason he's been so good in part and been their skeleton key for kind of just unlocking everything is he can basically be a defensive lineman when they need him to be in the running game, and yet he's great if he's not on the line of scrimmage and he's playing linebacker. He's truly a hybrid in a league that is looking for him. Guy that can basically play multiple positions. And yes, in this game, the Eagles defense and that Vic Fangio defense has gotten a lot of credit this year. And you think about the young secondary and you think about Jalen Carter, and you make a good point there, but it's really a team defense that usually Fangio's defense, that's their vulnerabilities against the run. And it is just not the case at all this year. So this is my pick as well. I'm going Eagles 4.5. We are together on 2.
Wow.
And we're opposite on 1. And we're only going to end up talking about 3 games really on this show, because yeah, that was the one I felt the best in. And again, it's about whether you value the last month or do you value the course of the season. I think the Packers are a really good team, but I agree with what Daniel Jeremiah and Brian Baldinger, our friends, said on NFL Network the other day when I was watching. They thought the Eagles are the favorites in the NFC,
They
and
should be.
I
As I have
agree.
a
Just
Bobby Lane jersey behind me.
yeah,
They absolutely should
just
be.
they're they just have so many different ways to beat you. I think they're
But
well
also,
coached.
I'm not saying that if the Lions are fully staffed. I'm saying that in the situation that we find ourselves in today, 100%. If I'm yes, but that's the thing is that's why we play the full season, right? Like because the Lions, maybe that advantage will be enough. But I certainly my preseason pick for the Super Bowl, Chiefs, Eagles, feeling pretty good about it right now.
Yeah, I had Bills Lions and I had Lions Eagles in the NFC Championship game, so I feel good about all that. Don't ask me who else I had in the championship game because I
Not going
just
to.
had them lose. I had them losing to the Chargers this weekend, so I don't think my Texans to the
Whatever.
championship game is going to happen. But I don't know if I'm going to pick the Eagles over the Lions if that game happens. The home field advantage. I'm talking about them favorite in a vacuum. And so, as good as this Packers team is, ultimately, I think the number one mismatch, and I didn't talk about this in preview, in this game is the Eagles pass protecting when they need to. And they're always in great situations for Hurts, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, whatever it is, second, first down. And I do think when they're going to need to pass, I just don't trust the Packers to get on him at all. And maybe they'll have to blitz more, but they've shown they can pick that up and handle that well. And so I think there could be a lot of points in this game, even though they're two pretty good defenses. But I just trust the Eagles to get over that number. In the end, you said the Rams would have been next for you. For me, it probably would have been.
The
It
Rams
probably
with the
would have been the
points.
Broncos. It probably would have been the
Love the Broncos
Broncos.
with the points too.
Yeah,
2.5,
getting
weird
it
number.
feels like a lot, and you could see Josh Allen going crazy at the end of the game in what ultimately is a close game. But I just think the Broncos are a good team, and that's a lot of points to give a good team in the playoffs.
Okay, so we didn't have game day view this week. Do you
Yeah.
remember what you would have said for your write this down? I can go first because I know my write this down
I
offhand.
don't.
I
I
was
don't. So
mad
for our
'cause
daily listeners, yes, who don't know game debut, write this down at the very end. We give our maybe our favorite pick, but usually it's our favorite prop type of pick for the week. And I got 3 in a row, but I've been riding Jameer Gibbs, and that's not available this
I
week.
was
So
about
I
to
did not
say
have one
you
planned
got to
out.
pick something else. All right,
Yes.
well,
Okay.
you can
Go ahead.
onboard this one with me if you like. And
Okay.
it is Cam Akers to have more than 23
Ooh.
and a half rushing yards against his former team. He's coming off a 65-yard outing on the ground against the Lions. If you're looking at Sam Darnold, what's the outlet? It's going to be the run.
Mm.
Is Aaron Jones 100%? Your girl doesn't know, but I do know that if I'm looking at 23 yards against your former team, are you kidding me? I love a good narrative thing that matches my math. So like anger alongside revenge alongside of math is like that is the best combination.
And he's been running really well lately. He passes the eye test. Had a good, one of the few players who had a good week 18 against the Lions. I did not have one picked out. As I had mentioned, we had evacuated. We've been on the run. We're back at home now. So I did not do any game debut prep, and the show ended up getting canceled. But now that we're talking, and I'm thinking about these games specifically, and we're talking about the Bills, I kind of like just James Cook's rushing number, whatever it is. It's not a good way to pick props. Is just whatever that number is. But
No.
ultimately, I do think that's the mismatch in this game, and I think they've shown us they can win multiple types of ways, and I think they'll be patient with him. And so I think it's a James Cook game against the Broncos. That's where I would go.
Yeah, so I think a James Cook touchdown is where I'd go with that. I love
Okay.
same thing because what the most rushing touchdowns was 16 on the season, 18 touchdowns, tied for the second most among any players. And if you look at the difference between losses and wins for the Broncos, they allow
Mm-hmm.
rushing touchdowns in losses and they kind of don't in wins. That's the rule of thumb for them this season. So if you think the Bills are going to win, then you think, hey, a rushing touchdown could happen. So that's how I'm playing that one too. I think that James, I don't know the number offhand for him for rushing yards, but I'm liking the touchdown odds.
I love that. And yes, apologies to the other 2 games this weekend that we just didn't even mention at all. But I don't know, a Ravens Steelers game with that big a number. I'd rather just watch the football and not stress out about it. It just let's see what
I
happens.
want to see is George Pickens going to
Yes.
keep the lid on it or not? Because I just think this is one where he's like, "Wah!" Like it's going to be wild. Like
That is a fun side note. And yeah, Vikings Rams to me is the most unpredictable game of the weekend. You could tell me anything would happen in the game, no matter where it is. I guess you were leaning Rams if it's in Los Angeles.
I actually have the Vikings by 1, so it was going to be Rams with the points. But
Gotcha. So the old threading the needle, but that's one I have no feel on. I just want to watch it and enjoy it, as we will do the rest of the weekend. Like I said, we're going to be back on Saturday night. Haven't done this. We did some TNFs early in the season, but it got difficult with the game debut schedule to do it live. So I really appreciate everyone who has supported the show all season long. Let's get the community going. Show up Saturday night. We'll go live on YouTube probably about 10 minutes after the game with one of the best in the business, Bill Barnwell, talking about 2 big AFC games. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to check out Numbers Game on your YouTube channel. In the meantime, thank you, Cynthia. Yes, when we take the super out of Super Wildcard Weekend, you can't say super anymore. It is just Wildcard Weekend. That is when you know football is back. And we'll see you Saturday.